What if the universe is in a constant state of sending you feedback? Welcome to There Will Be Signs, a podcast that celebrates the stories, synchronicities, and strange nudges that remind us there's more to life than what we see. Here we'll talk to deeply intuitive guests and offer practical ways to connect to the magic, whimsy, and unseen helpers that exist around you every single day, because you are supported, dear listener. It may not always feel that way, but there will be signs. Hi, Amanda. How are you doing?
Hi, Killian. I'm great. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. This is our first episode. How we feeling?
Feeling good. Feeling psyched.
Super psyched.
Psyched.
I want to take a moment before we start to just address anyone who's listening. Thank you for being here. What's really funny when I was thinking about this whole podcast idea and concept, which of course is that the core belief that you and I have is that there are helper energies in the universe. Mm-hmm. And there are so many different ways to tap into those helper energies. And one of those bridges is through signs and synchronicities, and really learning how to discern what signs are meant for us to follow versus what signs might be meant for us to avoid. I was thinking about that in the context of how I look for podcasts and what makes me choose to take a chance on a new podcast that I've never seen before. And I know in marketing, there's this term like early adopter. Like there are people out there who are just willing to jump in. They're just willing to be like, hey, this looks cool. I'm going to try it. Yeah. I'm not that person. Any trend that comes around, I'm like, I'm going to watch other people do it. And then when it feels safe, I'll jump in.
Yeah.
So if you are listening to this and you are here at our very first episode, thank you for being a risk taker. Thank you for not being like me.
Yeah. Where did you come from? Tell us.
Who are you?
How'd you find us?
Yeah, right? Tell us. We would love to learn a little bit more about you, but thank you for being here more than anything.
Do you have a talent? Do you want to show us? Do you have guides?
Do you want to be a guest?
Yeah.
You want to be a guest on the show? No, I think we're just really excited to be here. This is a concept Amanda and I love talking about. We've known each other for 20 years since college, which dates us. So maybe I shouldn't have said that, but here we are.
You know what? We're fabulous. All the millennials, we're rocking it. Every day, we're learning more. We're getting better, in my opinion.
Sure.
I believe that. I really do.
No, I know. I do too. I believe it. But today we have a very cool guest. I'm going to read her bio. Our guest today is Jessica Paschke. She's an intuitive coach. She's a tarot practitioner. She has over 15 years of intuitive practice, and her work sits at, this is how she describes it, the intersection of human-centered spirituality and real-life change. She approaches the cards not as a mirror for reflection, but as a looking glass, and she's going to talk about that in this episode.
Such a good balance.
Such a good balance. She talks about it as a doorway, like tarot being a doorway into the parts of ourselves that don't show up in ordinary self-examination. Her practice helps women move from spiritual insight into intentional action, from who they've been into who they're choosing to become. So she is an incredible first person to have on the show, because the whole arc, I think, of the concept of signs is about inner discernment. It's about action. We're making decisions every single day.
Every single minute. Literally, I think I missed a call because I was deciding to do dishes, didn't hear the phone. Something could have changed because I didn't answer the phone. Something could have changed because I called them back versus answering at that time. I feel like every little thing is a butterfly effect.
And that really is the human experience, right? It's just a series of choices. People talk a lot about how there's no such thing as time. But I also think that we came down to this planet and we're experiencing this reality in a linear way because of the way it restricts us, because of exactly this, because we're constantly then forced to make decision after decision, knowing that those decisions are going to have impact.
Yeah.
And consequence. And I don't know about you, but for me as a little kid, this used to drive me nuts. I would think about this constantly with especially big life decisions, like choosing where to go to college. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the first decision I get to make. Like everything else has been, my folks are choosing this for me. I'm moving around because my dad got a job or whatever it is. And this was a decision I was making. And it was going to impact the rest of my life. And it did, right? Like I married a guy I met at college.
I met him too. He was a,
right?
Yeah, he's a great choice.
He was
I was going to say he was a good time, but that sounds terrible.
It's a good time. He is a good
He
time.
is a good time.
It's true. But yeah, I think that it can consume us if we think about it too hard.
Definitely.
Like how these decisions have impact.
Most of them have flow, I would say. Like it's just your day.
Yes.
But even though it's not all encompassing, it does impact.
Yes. And I also think for anyone who does get caught up in this whole concept and starts to spiral, something that has helped me a lot is there's always a new doorway and new path, right? Where if it feels like we're making a choice and then that choice is locked and it feels a little scary that that choice is locked, there's always an off ramp. You can always make another choice. It becomes sort of like gamified in a way, right?
Oh my God. Maybe that's why I love Choose Your Own Adventure books so much. Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe not. I don't know. But that's just what it reminded me of.
I also used to love Choose Your Own Adventure books, and here we are.
Why don't we have those more as adults? Okay.
If you think about it, Amanda, this entire podcast is an exploration of choosing your own adventure.
Maybe life is just that.
So today's adventure is that we're meeting with Jessica, and I'm very excited for how this is going to flow.
Me too.
Jessica, we are so excited to have you on the show. Thank you for being here. As you know, like this show is really about exploring signs and synchronicities. It's really about tapping into our own internal like dialogue with ourselves when it comes to discernment, when it comes to feeling confident about our own intuition, our intuitive pull. And I know that tarot is such a huge part of that. I'd love to just dive in by asking you your sun, moon, and rising.
I'm a Libra sun.
Okay.
I'm a Leo rising.
Ooh.
And I'm a Gemini moon.
Oh.
Wow.
But now here's the twist. Almost all of my planets are in one house in Scorpio.
No
so I
way.
actually show up as more Scorpio than I do anything.
Wow.
How's that been for you?
Yeah. How's life?
Being a faux Scorpio? Intense. Well, I love to dive deep. I love to dive deep. Like I love to, you know what I mean? And so that comes through in my work. It comes through in my relationships and my conversations. Everything is like, how deep can we go? Like, and I love that connection, the intimacy of connection rather than like just a broad, you know, it's interesting how it shows up. But then like, I have a real passion for like justice that comes with Libra. And clearly I don't have a problem showing up visibility wise. And that's a Leo. So I love charts. They're fascinating.
Random question, but do you have siblings?
I have one sibling, yeah.
Okay. And as a child, so my brother's a Scorpio. I'm just curious. As a child, were you like sneaky about how you teased your siblings?
100%.
Okay.
That's a fantastic question. Yes, I'm sure she'd totally affirm that too.
I love it. That was my brother. My brother's a Scorpio, and he was so sneaky about how he would torment me, and I would always get blamed for it. And I was like, oh.
Were you like, oh my God, you shouldn't have done that? Or
yeah,
because
yes, but like just really sly and quiet, like almost like there were moments where I'd set her up, like where I knew she would, you know.
Yeah, it's the setup. You know how she's gonna explode, and so you're just like, oh,
I'll just nudge it a little in this direction.
You sneaky witches.
And that also makes sense why actually you found what you did. I was gonna dive into like how you found tarot, and I know you're also an intuitive guide, so tell us a little bit about your backstory. How did you land where you are?
It's a big one, but no, we'll keep it succinct. How I got into tarot was interesting. So I was a military spouse for 22 years. My husband was in the military for 22 years in the Coast Guard. And so we moved around everywhere. So every like 3 years, I'd move someplace where I didn't know anyone at all. And we had just moved to Cape Cod, Massachusetts for like the next 3 or 4 years. I think that tour was. And I had just had a baby moving there. I think she was like 2 weeks old when we moved to Cape Cod. And it was like maybe 5-6 months in, and I still didn't really know anyone. And my husband was like, you need to get out of the house. I will watch. He was actually home. I will watch the baby get out. And there was a psychic development circle happening. And and I was like, I've never been to one. I had never been to one. Like I was very like intuitive. I was very empathic, but I didn't really think I was a psychic or a medium or anything like that. But I was like, oh, I'll go and I'll just sit and watch other people be psychic. Well, this will be fun, right? And I showed up and I got into the circle, and the circle wrapped up, and the woman leading it was like, did you know that you're psychic and you're a medium? Did you know that?
Did you know you're in a coven now?
Yeah, exactly. Did you know? And she ended up hiring me to do her social media and her newsletters. This was eons ago. And she says, in exchange, I'll teach you how to do tarot. I'll certify you in Reiki. I'll, teach you how to do psychic readings. And you just have to write my newsletter and my social posts. And I was like, okay.
Fair.
And so I ended up working there and teaching actually very quickly, because it turns out apparently I was psychic and a medium all along. I just didn't know that that's how, like, people, you don't know that people don't operate that way.
Yeah, nothing came up. Nothing like that, looking back, that you're just like, wait, oh yeah, I knew that.
Nothing, but like, okay, this is going to sound ridiculous.
We're here for it.
But growing up, I always knew when someone was going to die.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, if they were in the window of like, it's too late to do anything about it, I would know.
Oh my God.
Like, and that was through my 20s and everything. And so I always got to say goodbye. I always made sure, like, I'd never tell them. That was not my responsibility. But I just kind of thought, well, there's this sense that I knew, and I didn't realize at the time, right?
Oh, see, I'm like that with everybody every day, because I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I better love you so hard.
Yeah, but it moves you into that state of like, right,
Yeah.
of love. And like, so looking back on it, there were signs.
There were
Yeah,
signs.
right. There were signs. It sounds like you have this like classic hero story where you like show up in a place, and then this like mentor shows up and is like, you are the chosen one. I will help usher you into your place of being, which is so funny to me because that's always been something that I've like wanted.
Yeah, where's my lead?
I know. I'm just going to run into like a crone, this like magical crone who comes and says, you, let me pick you. Here's the path you're supposed to be on. But it's lovely because at the end of the day, like, you are your own savior. You are your own guide. You are your own hero. And so being able to see the signs and understand how to interpret them is that important piece to actually figuring out what path you belong on. But I just love that. I love that you had this mentor figure, because that's powerful too.
Yeah, it was just, I was introduced and I was in a metaphysical center. So there were always people coming through. And so she would teach me a little bit, and then I'd ask questions from somebody else. And it really it was like probably a decade's worth of education in like a couple of years, because I was just immersed in it and able to stay curious and like figure it out. And then a lot of it was like, okay, what are my guides and I working on right now? Like, what is happening here? And they were really instrumental in the mediumship.
Talk about the importance of community too,
Yeah.
and just having people who are just as interested in this metaphysical stuff as you are. That's huge.
I'm still waiting for my guide. I really, as a Pisces, I really could use some direction.
I love it.
Women.
I think everyone feels that way. People come to me because they're in uncertainty. You're not reaching for a reader or getting your chart done or your human design done or whatever because everything is great. People usually show up because there's something uncertain in their lives. They're either in the in-between, they're in transition, they don't know what's going on, and they're reaching out to get that clarity. It's a natural, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think, and this is where it gets, like you were saying, you have to have discernment for yourself, right? Because there is no reader, there is no mentor, there is no guide that should be telling you what to do. They should not be telling you what to do. They should be giving you like, here's what I'm seeing. This is the energy I'm picking up on. Here's what we're looking at. But at the end of the day, it's you that makes the decision, no one else.
It's therapeutic. It's like going to therapy. Everyone wants to go to therapy and be like, what do I do? And that's not what they're teaching you. They're giving you the tools to get onto your path, figure out the next step. There could be, the right questions getting asked, both scenarios. And then, you can come back for more clarity and seeing what's right. But it's the old proverb of teaching somebody how to fish. And, we're figuring out the tools within ourselves.
Yeah. And even like Amanda and I have done our fair share of going to intuitive guides and healers of all different types and facets. And it's funny when somebody says something that doesn't resonate with you and you're like, oh, but that's also your inner guide telling you like, no, that's not the path.
Yeah.
Like, right? You have it all. So then in terms of what you do now, or do you spend most of your time working with tarot? What's your process?
What is my process? So tarot now, has really evolved for me. When I learned it like on like week 2. I went to a second development circle, and the next week I was learning tarot. It was like one of the very first tools I was using. And I was taught like predictive tarot, or a kind of a type of intuitive tarot where you're combining your intuition with tarot. And so I did that for quite a few years, but it wasn't actually working with my lifestyle because moving every couple of years, you're in this constant cycle of uncertainty. You don't get to choose where you move. You don't really know where you're moving to until you're like assigned, and then you're going and you're starting all over again. And no matter how many cards I drew, it wasn't giving me enough information to make that okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even with my clients, they'd come in uncertainty, and they're like, oh, like I can pull cards for you. We can get clear about what's going on. But a year later, they'd come back in still in uncertainty, right? Like it didn't change anything fundamentally. So we had just moved to Alaska. Like I had been there 24 hours, and I was unpacking boxes of cards, and I was very intent. Setting them up on my windowsill, right? This house that we had moved into, setting them on the windowsill. And then I had to run and get my daughter from preschool. So I set them all up there, and I was like, they'll be safe. The pets won't get at them, whatever. Walked out of the house, came home. It was raining, and the window seal had been broken on the house. And we didn't know because we just moved in, and it drenched every single deck I owned. Like, drenched it. And I was kind of getting upset with my tools anyways, like tarot in general. It was like, I'm like, okay, but this was like kind of the nail in the coffin. And I dried everything out, put them under books, flattened every card, put them in a box, put them on the shelf. Didn't do it for a year.
Wow.
Anyway, I was just really upset. I was just like, this is a sign.
Yeah, right.
All of
Talk
my
about
decks,
a sign.
all right, all of my decks are completely washed out. This is a sign, step away. But in that year break, when I came back to them, it had really changed. And I realized, like, okay, we have to be working with this in a different way. In order for this to work in the way that I need it to work, my clients need it to work, we have to be using these tools differently. And so now I've blended tarot with coaching, and we're using them as visual coaching tools that allows them to access their inner landscape and experience themselves differently, which it opens up a whole world of information that intuitive tarot and predictive tarot didn't. And those things are great. This is just a really different application of it.
I've never heard of tarot in these different like categories, predictive, intuitive. Are there others, or are those kind of the predominant ones that most people know and use?
The brilliant thing about tarot, you can pretty much you put any kind of framework, I say that loosely, maybe not any, but a lot of different frameworks on top of it. So intuitive tarot is really like, I'm going to use the cards, I'm going to tune into my intuitive skills for sure, maybe even my psychic skills, and I'm going to flip the cards and see the messages that came through, right? So I can still flip my cards and get messages from spirit guides using the cards if that's my intention. So I kind of put that under intuitive tarot, though I don't think that's maybe what most people would call it. But then also like divination and predictive tarot is like, I want to tell the future. I want to flip this and see what's coming. And there's usually, not always, but there's very often like a timing element. How many months before I meet this person, how many months before I find this job, like tell like more concrete answers. And I think that if you do predictive tarot or divination tarot, the people who do it well are they will blow your mind. They're brilliant, but not everyone can use it that way because it takes a lot of years of training to be
I couldn't
accurate
even
with
fathom how to get some concrete numbers, months, timing off of it. Like that just blows my mind.
I was trained in it, so I know how it works. It just wasn't working with how my life was unfolding. Like my real life wasn't matching that style of tarot. And so I needed something different. And the type of clients I was attracting needed something different, because it's like we could flip cards and then 2 days later, the energy would change. You could make a different decision. Something out of your control could happen. And now the whole thing's a wash.
Butterfly effect, all of it, every day, every
Yes.
corner you turn, in my opinion.
Yeah, the future is always changing. So it's hard. It's really hard to be accurately predicting. I was reading something recently about how, especially now, like in this era, this timeline, wherever we're at, it's really hard to do anything predictive because everything's moving at such a rapid pace.
Yeah.
We're getting our information faster, like changing how we view things, our perspectives on the world. The world is infinitely more connected. Like we used to be these little sections, right? It would take days for information to travel. Now our cultural norms and beliefs are bumping up against other people's in a matter of seconds. Someone posts on the other side of the world, we get it, and it's like, whoa. So it's a really interesting time that we're living in.
Yeah, it really is.
There's something I read a while ago and it struck me really hard that they were like, we are not supposed to have all the information around the world at all times because it's a lot to process.
Right.
And, you know, sometimes you should kind of, although we all want to make the world a better place and speaking up and being all together on a certain topic to make a positive difference is obviously amazing. But at the same time, it's a lot to take in every single day to hear what this community at the other side of the world is dealing with, especially for the empaths and everybody else. It hits so hard. And in a different timeline or hundreds of years ago, you would have never known. You would have never known. This would never affected your life. I'm not saying that it's all good or all bad. It's just very impactful. And to have all that energy coming at you all over the place every day, every minute of every day, pretty much.
It creates
wild.
a lot more uncertainty.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen. There's never that break where we can sit, digest, you know what I mean, process. We're constantly in flux, constantly in change. It's a lot for the body and the brain to handle.
Yeah. And a lot of stuff doesn't always wrap up. You hear this information, this thing happened, right? And then the news story goes on to the next one. And you don't really know what happened in that story because there's just so much.
It's very disorienting the way that we live now. And as you were saying that, Jessica, I just felt myself like take this like deep breath as you were talking about there's no time to process. I was like, oh, like I can feel my body just like wanting to process. Like I just need a second.
It's like finishing a book. You're just like, okay, good, done. And instead it's like, oh God, there's 100 more chapters left every day.
Always 100 more chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
They
life.
just magically appeared and you're like, I thought I was done.
There's no done.
So then tell me a little bit about how this like visual tarot kind of works for your clients in terms of like, is there an example you could use of the specific way that you're engaging with?
Yeah, so I actually teach this in my Through the Looking Glass class. Is it's a combination. So what we're doing with tarot is we want to use these cards to access like our inner landscape, right? So that we can see ourselves in a very different way, because that allows us to take action moving forward. So I explain it like Alice, right? Alice is sitting in her parlor or wherever she was sitting in her book, and she looks at the mirror and she realizes the looking glass is not reflecting back what she sees, right? So she gets closer, she pushes her hand through and she falls through, and she's in Wonderland, in a where things are the same, but like they're backwards and they're upside down. Like everything is just a little bit different. And it's enough of an experience. The differences are enough that it changes fundamentally who she is. So when she steps back through the looking glass, she's a different person. And that's kind of what we're doing with the tarot. Is we're not using it as a tool in my process. We're not using it as a tool just for reflection, because reflection is great. Like when we stand at a mirror, like we kind of know what we're going to see. I mean, we know our hair color, our eye color, right? We might notice a little bit of something that we didn't expect, but it's nothing big. But if we step through the mirror, then all of a sudden we're outside the frame of the mirror. And the frame of the mirror is where all of our beliefs and our thoughts, our stories, our patterns, all those narratives live. And we can sometimes respond to this frame, not realizing the frame isn't actually updated for who we are today. So that we hold the card up and we step through. We use the card to step through and be like, okay, what is going on underneath? Like if I'm stepping outside, like what is the frame? Let's look at the frame and let's look at what's happening. And then how does that change how I want to respond, right? What perspective changes? And then we pull them back through. So it does involve intuition. It does involve, right? Because we're reading energy, we're pulling in messages from your team, we're doing all of that, but we're also combining this piece of like a very human-centered experience. Like what is not just our soul, not just the ethers, not just out there, but like what is happening to our human self, what has happened to our human self, and do we want to take that with us? How do we want to shift? And then when they come back through the looking glass, right? When the cards are done, we talk about intentional action. What do we want to do next? How do we want to change this? What do we need to do in order to not experience this again? That was my big thing. You want to help people. You're out there, you're reading because you want to help people. But when they come back in 6 months and they're in the same place, like something is missing.
Yeah.
Right? They need more. And so now we're using tarot as the more to help them start to look at the actions and the skills and the tools and the practices they need to build to actually create the change in their life that they want, that they're coming in looking for.
So when they come out through the looking glass, is it about embodying some of the cards that you pull for them and like learning how to embody some of them? Or is it more about like using the cards as these are the tools that you need to take those action steps? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, so sometimes it is like an energy that they need to embody, sometimes, but often it's more hands-on. Like, oh, I didn't realize that this belief was interfering with whatever, right? I didn't realize this was triggering me to react from this place. Now, what needs to be in place instead? And that's where my equity-centered coaching comes into play, right?
Sure.
So we're combining the two to make sure that it's like, okay, so now what do we do with that story? What do we do with that belief? How does that change? What is that ripple effect? What kind of action would you take instead, right? How are you meeting your day? What choices are you making? What are your values? All of those things come into play so that they can kind of step away and feel like, okay, yeah, and obviously it's more than an hour, but
Sure.
it's longer work.
It kind of reminds me of having like a good doctor team. And that's really what's coming in. Some doctors might be like, here's your medicine, take it, go on your way. A more holistic, well-rounded doctor might say, like the whole, how's your sleep environment? What's your eating? What's your work life? Da da da. And I know both doctors have existed across probably all of our paths at some point, but this just feels like when you have like a team and a well-rounded whole situation to read your environment, and because everything comes into play. What are you eating? Versus like just here's the diagnosis based on your blood work or whatever, instead of seeing the more well-rounded approach. It's like, this card will tell you this one thing, but then once you put all these other things into play, it's such a more beautiful and accurate picture.
Both ways help. There is a time and a place for both ways.
Yeah.
And if you really want to make something different, you have to approach it from all the different facets.
Yeah. As someone who, I mean, I use tarot a lot, almost daily. And for me, I'm self-taught. So it's really fun to hear about how you're incorporating it. Cause as I'm reflecting on my own practice, I'm like, oh, I'm like, some of these elements feel really familiar and similar. I'm sure it's much more complex and layered and intentional when you do it. But I was like, oh, this is so cool to see. I mean, I think that tarot can be such a beautiful guide, almost like parts work in therapy. Of like helping you see the various parts of yourself and the various wounds and the things that need to be healed. And, it's also about asking the right questions, I'm sure.
Well, that's why we shift into having a conversation instead of asking questions. So when I teach tarot to beginners, I don't have them ask questions, because the question that will screw you over every time. And questions are hard. They take practice, and you have to word them right. And like, even in a reading, if I'm thinking about, like, I'm sitting here and thinking, I'm like, okay, what's the question? I'm really sorting through a bunch of different things based on like over a decade of experience. So I always tell people it's better to take your cards and shuffle them and talk to them like they're your best friend.
Yes, that's what I do.
Yeah, it allows the cards to like take you where you need to go, rather than you trying to figure out how this card fits into this question, right? It gives it a bigger place. And I mean, come on, how many times do we talk to our friends and they don't offer a single piece of advice, but we work through it just in the conversation?
Yes.
Every time you talk to a woman, how about that? Oh my God.
It's just like, oh wait, oh, I've never said this way.
I'm here to work through it with you in my own head more than, yeah, I mean, of course, I want advice too sometimes, but more than likely we're talking it through instead of, here's your answer. Here's a box. Open the gift and get it.
Okay, so this is a great way to segue back into the theme of the podcast, which is, we hold this core belief that there are helper energies in the universe that are here to support us. The world right now is bananas, and I think we all need to feel like there are helper energies that we can latch onto that can like really help us navigate our independent lives and our life in community as well. And when I think about that and I think about helper energies, I also naturally think about maybe the less helpful energies that exist in the world. And I know for me as a kid, I was really sensitive to sort of intense, not so helpful energies. And I'm curious for you in your practice, how do you ensure that the guidance coming through the cards, that the conversations that you're having with the cards are coming from a helpful place versus one that's maybe a little bit more mischievous or not as supportive?
Yeah. So on a very simplified level, I would say creating energetic filters. I don't like to think of it as walls or shields. I like to think of it as a filter and setting the parameters of what's allowed to come through the filter. Whether it's like I'm walking around and I mean, I live in New England, everywhere you go, there's something. But it's filtered out for the most part. I don't want to be an open, right? So we turn the volume down on some things and we turn the volume up on others. I think that's a really good helpful first step for people is to create these filters so that they're naturally just kind of sorting it out, and most of it won't ever even get to you. I think in terms of like how do you know if something's helpful versus not helpful, it actually comes down to knowing yourself better. When you know yourself and you know your inner voice and you work on and you take the time to get to know your guides and how your spirit guides and your team and your ancestors work, you can start to filter out based on what your clairs are, filter out the things that are in resonance with that and the things that are not, right? So I kind of fire on all cylinders with my clairs because I was a medium, psychic medium for so long. So I'm seeing things, I'm hearing things, smelling, tasting, feeling, knowing. And I know I've done that so much over the years. I know what is what, right? And I also ask my guides and my ancestors, like filter out what I don't need, right? But I think just knowing who I am, knowing what my inner voice sounds like is the key.
Yeah, I think this is really helpful for listeners because if somebody's new at practicing tarot or using divination tools or just even accessing their own sense of inner discernment, intuition, and they're not as sensitive or haven't learned how to kind of discern, oh, that energy doesn't feel like mine, for example, what would you suggest is like a good starting point for them?
This is going to sound so random and not connected, but hear me out.
Love it.
Spill it.
Take us on the journey.
Figure out what your values are.
I'm interrupting this episode to share some low-lift ways to help us reach more people. Because we're so new, we really rely on our listeners to help spread the word. So if you're enjoying this episode, here are a few simple things you can do while you continue listening that we would appreciate so, so much. First is to subscribe or follow this podcast on whatever streaming platform you happen to be listening to right now. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please consider giving us a 5-star rating as that really pushes us in the algorithm. And if you're on YouTube, maybe leave us a positive comment like, I'm enjoying this, or something quick and easy that feels good to you. And lastly, talk about us. Share us with a friend. I recently saw an Instagram post where someone said, I know that if I ask my girls to share my work, they will. And I was like, that's it. So we're asking our girls, if you like it here, please help us build momentum. We're so grateful to have you. I'll let you get back to the episode.
Figure out what your values are, like 3 to 5 values that are important. And if that advice doesn't line up with your values, it is not for you.
Yeah.
Right? And it should line up with all of them, not one of them, all of them. So I have 5 values. And if my decisions, my choices, the advice that comes through, if it's not lining up with that, it's not for me. Even if it's from my guides, then they're going to have to take it back to the drawing board, come back and give me some different ideas because these are the things that matter to me in this lifetime, in this human experience. And it has to be in alignment with that. And I always tell my psychic development class, put them up in a corner put them on a Post-it, put them on an index card. Does it line up with this? And if it doesn't, then it's a hard no matter what it is.
Can we ask what your values are?
Yeah, you can ask me what my values are. So curiosity, you have to be curious. Joy is really important for me. I've been through a lot in this lifetime, and so I'm always trying to find moments of joy, no matter where I'm at, what I'm experiencing. Grace is huge for myself and others. I don't know how you navigate without grace in a world, especially today. Connection with other people's, connection with self, connection with soul and spirit, and then being congruent. So taking all the things that matter and like all the things we say and like taking action on that, like applying it, integrating it, showing up, using it intentionally. Those are my 5. And they show up in all of my teaching spaces, all of my decisions, my choices, and when they're not present, you can it's the agitation is very fast.
It's very clear.
The
signs are there.
Yeah. Can I go back one step? You were saying before about, filtering. When I've gone to readings before, there's been more than one time that someone will say, don't worry, it's not scary. I'm not scared. But they'll always say to other people, they're like, only good things are coming through. Do you feel like those people are kind of purposely filtering out, as you mentioned, any negative things? Because so many people are worried about this. Sometimes they find it to be taboo. Sometimes they're like, oh, I'm afraid to mess with this. And then, those readers will sometimes be like, don't worry, it'll only be a good reading. It'll only be positive. What's your take on that?
I think it depends on the kind of reader you are. Like if that's your thing and that's what you're known for and that's why people come to you, more power to you.
Yeah.
I think for me, that is not how I have experienced life, that we are going to have difficulties, we are going to have challenges. And for me personally, I'd rather know where that might surface or how it might come up or what's under this. I mean, I'm a Scorpio, what's under the surface, right? So that I can meet it with intentionality and meet it with like knowing that, like, if we know something's going to go down, we can kind of practice and prep and like, not predictive wise, but just like, okay, I've got to have this hard conversation. How do I imagine this going? What do I want to remember? How do I want to respond? Like we can kind of get in that zone. And so I think seeing both sides of things are really important. But I also feel like if you're going to bring something hard and challenging and difficult into the reading, you better be able to hold that space and you better be able to resolve it so that they're not walking out, spinning out.
Right.
So, because it can go the other way too. I've seen people who it's like all dark, all whatever, and that poor person is just spinning, right? So you have to know your container and you have to know the agreement between you and the person sitting across from you.
Yeah, you're like, thank you so much. Here's my visa. Appreciate the heartbreak. Yikes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm never going to tell someone like something that isn't true just because it's uncomfortable. But I'm always going to say, listen, these are the themes around, I always say, these are the themes around this card, right? It can show up as a 1. We've all had a tower, right? It can show up as a 1, super light, barely noticeable, and it can be a 10. And we don't know what that will be. That's based on a lot of things. But this is kind of the theme. This is kind of the energy that comes with this, and to be aware of it, right?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I think energetic protection is such an important part of the conversation. And one of the reasons that I feel that your answer to my question about discerning whether or not there's beneficial or non-beneficial energies is so fantastic is because it like encourages people to make that list of values, period. Yes. So many people do not have a list of values and they don't actually know what their values are.
Yeah.
And so when they get advice, they take it not knowing whether or not it actually aligns with their own inner wisdom. So I think that's a fantastic way of looking at it. To dive more into cards specifically, I'm curious how often you use them for yourself. Like, what is your practice for you?
Yeah, I think it depends on like my season of life. Like a lot of times I pull a card a day, but I'm really sitting with it. I'm really exploring it. So I'm having that conversation. So there's a longer part. I pull a card and then I go down the rabbit hole literally with it and see like what's in here, like what wants to be written out, what wants to be explored. Some days when it's really busy, maybe I'll pull a card and be like, okay. And then I just set it up, to remember to come back to that, or to remember to look into that more deeply, or just reflect on it later in the day. And then there are times where it goes and I don't pull cards for a little while because I don't need
Sure.
like, you
Right.
know what I mean? Like you can access your intuition and your guidance in so many ways. Like, just the other day, I was sitting out. It's the first warm day in New England. It was gorgeous. And I was sitting out on the deck, and we lived near the ocean. So I was looking at the ocean. I had my cup of tea, and it was really early in the morning. And it was just like the birds were singing. And then all of a sudden, like my guides just kind of dropped in. And we were just sort of like, I was just hanging out with them. And there was kind of this conversation and these thoughts and ideas and impressions kind of coming in. And I didn't really need to draw a card that day because the connection was very direct, and it was, So, but I do love it. And if you're learning, I do think drawing a card every day is really helpful when you first start.
Yeah, I could see that. When looking at tarot as sort of signs, I think a lot of people, when they think about signs and synchronicities, they think of like random occurrences, right? Like bumping into somebody on the street, and tarot is much more intentional. You're drawing a card. Sometimes
like
it'll
78 signs.
Right, exactly. You can choose. Choose your own sign.
Choose your own sign.
And I love that about it. And I think there are some fun instances, and I'd love to get your experience on this, but I want to share a story that happened to me sort of recently. I know sometimes like cards will fall out of the deck, and that's sort of like a little sign within a sign, right? Of like, this is your card. For me, I've had this crazy journey over the last 2 years of constantly pulling the same card, and I will shuffle like crazy. Yes. And this card is on me, on me. And it's the Emperor. So I have 2 small kids. My youngest is a year and a half. And probably about 2 years ago is when this started. But the beautiful thing is, for me in my life, the message is like, I'm giving so much of my body and my time to other people. And this is really about like claiming my own inner authority back, coming back into myself, getting back on that throne, going after the things I want, and delegating. And so for me, it felt like the Emperor became my sign. Like every time I would get the Emperor, it was like my guides saying, again, go again, try again, keep trying to sit on that throne. You're almost there. You got to keep this in the forefront of your mind. So I'm curious if you've had any similar experiences with cards that have shown up in your life, and what those cards might be, if you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, I haven't actually, now that you mentioned it, I haven't had a stalker in a while, which I'm kind of surprised, because they do tend to pull up, and they do tend to be for me more reassuring, like we've got you, like keep going, like that inspirational type of like, remember this is important. Remember this is important. I'm not like getting stalked by the 3 of Swords. But I was just thinking back as I was like shuffling through my brain that even in the hardest of times, I wasn't stalked by the Tower. The Star will show up quite a bit, and it will be so at odds with what I'm experiencing that I'll be like, are you all drunk up there? Like, what is going on? Like, maybe. How, but it's a reminder that even in the darkest moments, we can have hope and there's light. And so that one tends to show up quite a bit when I'm.
It's a beautiful card.
That's my card too, the Star. I have little.
Oh, I love it.
Also, you need to get the Emperor tattoo. Let's go.
That would be fun. And Emperor is actually an Aries card, and I'm an Aries. And right now, by the way, can we just take a moment for the fact that there's like 7 planets in Aries that are happening today?
I saw.
For tomorrow.
This week is bananas. I was like, every time I open up my Channy app, I'm like, okay, I know. Here we go. What's going to happen today?
I was telling Killian before this, I was like, let me tell you about my week. It is chaos.
It's chaos. And what's so funny is that all these astrologers are like, oh no, 7 planets in Aries. And I'm an Aries sun, Aries rising.
Oh, so you're super comfy in this.
Oh my God. I'm like, bring it on. Like, isn't this a good thing, you guys? This is good, right? Why does nobody think this is good?
I'm like, it's a little hot in here, guys. Like, the energy. I'm like, I came from sleepy energy, and
it's too much heat. Like, I get it.
I was like, how dare I take on another project right now? What are you thinking?
So funny to see how everybody interacts with all the various energies. But I am curious if you have a favorite card. So I have two questions for you. Favorite card, and what card do you think might be the most misunderstood in the deck, if there is one?
favorite card. I feel like, I love all my children equally.
What do you?
That's hard.
But do you?
Well, because each one of them has a job, right? Like, and when they all come together, they give the most exquisite, detailed picture of the human experience and the soul experience, right? And so it's hard. Like, if we were to take any of them out, or you know what I mean, I can get annoyed with certain ones, like,
Sure.
I think the lovers can get a little annoying, like choices and decisions. It's like, yeah, no,
Interesting.
like, yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm making a choice and a decision.
Yeah,
But thanks
right.
for identifying the obvious. So the lovers can kind of like scratch at me every once in a while. The 10 of Swords shows up for me when like I'm like done, like cooked, it's done, like, and I'm burnt out and I'm exhausted. So I always get annoyed with that because they're telling me what I already know when that one shows up, so those are kind of the ones that tweak me a little bit. And then you said, what is the most misunderstood? I think the cards that people look at that are a little bit darker in nature,
Sure.
especially if you're looking at like the traditional imagery from the Rider Waite. So that would be like the Devil, the Tower, I don't know,
Death.
some other ones. Death, yes, Death. I always, when I'm doing readings, like for people who've never had one and I flip Death, I'm like, don't panic, it's not what it looks like. I immediately say that. Don't panic, it's not what it looks like.
Comes with a warning sign.
Deep breath.
You're not about to die.
You're not about to, this is not, some 90s teenage horror movie. But I think that the ones that have the things that we're most afraid to look at.
What an answer. Yes. So it must be so personal, right? The stuff that is like really, really mirroring probably our shame or grief. Yeah.
Or reminding us like life is not forever, or things that are a little bit heavier. Those are the cards I think that people label bad, when in reality it's actually just a part of us.
I have a hard time with the Three of Swords, which is the three swords through the heart.
Yeah.
And it just, because it's grief, right? And it's like, oof, it just always hits me so hard. And I just want to like throw it. But it's also actually a very healing card. It's about, healing through the process, unless you interpret it differently.
No, like the loss, the grief. I don't want to sound trite, but if we're grieving something, we've loved something, right? And that's why the heart is in that picture, is that both are true at the same time. I find you can have joy and you can have grief, and it can be simultaneous. Like they don't cancel each other out. And I think that card represents the heart, and the swords, I think it represents that.
I'm curious, Jessica, before we part, if you have any other stories about signs or synchronicities that have happened. I mean, the story that you had of the rain drenching all of your cards is like just wild. But have there been any other moments where you feel like, oh gosh, this is such a sign?
I have so many sign stories. Okay. So remember, y'all, I'm a medium as well. Okay.
Yes.
So in 2022 was a really hard year. I call it like my year of life quakes. After a year of cancer, my dad passed away in May. And then a month later, my husband was diagnosed with brain cancer. And then a month after that, my grandmother died. It was like bam, bam, bam. And my husband and I had to go to Boston for his health care. We were living in the Outer Banks at the time. And so we left my daughter with my mom and moved up there for 4 months. And my friend, who is the most amazing psychic medium I have ever met, she lives in Connecticut. She's like, I'm going to come and pick you up, and we're going to like get you out of the apartment that you were in. You need to get out. And we're going to go look at towns and see where you might want to move, because we knew this was a long-term thing. There's it's not a cure thing, it's a long-term thing. So we had to move to New England. And so we got in our car and we were driving that summer that we were there. We were driving all around. And I had said to my guides, because I'm also work in depth with spirit guides and a spirit guide mediumship, I was like, okay, listen, I need a sign. If this is the place that we're supposed to live, I need signs. And we were stopping at a lot of different towns. And I'm like, and I got in the car and he's like, okay, the sign is if we can smell salt water, then this is an option. But if we can't smell the salt water, then this is not an option. And she has been doing mediumship for like 30 years. She was like, you are ridiculous. That is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. And I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, no, let's just do it. It'll be fine. So we go up the North Shore of Massachusetts, right? And we drive to Ipswich, and Ipswich is a little off the ocean, but it's there.
Yeah.
This is like where my family lives, by the way.
Okay, so you're familiar with the area. So we get out of the car to like look around, check it out, feel the energy, because energy was huge. Like we could have a whole episode on all the things I've experienced, like with the mediumship energy thing. But we get out of the car and I smell salt air. And I was like, okay, Ipswich stays on the list. We drive to Manchester. We go to Gloucester. Gloucester stays on the list, right? Obviously, right? But we go to Manchester by the sea. We get out at the dock on the ocean. Ocean is lapping on the dock. No salt water. You cannot smell the salt water. She thought I was full of it until she got out and she's like, Jessica, I can't smell salt water. She's like, I have never in all of my years had anyone who works with spirit guides the way that you work with spirit guides. Like the way that she was blown away. And we did it through every like North Shore, South Shore. And
unbelievable.
How is this experiment gonna work? I was like, of course you're gonna smell it.
Standing on the ocean, no salt water, on the ocean.
And remind me, did this come through your guides, or did you choose it?
No, my guides, it came through my guides.
Okay, interesting.
They dropped it in. They were like, hey, like.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love that. Do you believe that sometimes you can choose your own sign and then your guides will follow through? Like you can be like, okay, show me a butterfly or something like that?
100%. Just a couple weeks ago, I was working on something and I kept getting like, I love bird signs. I love a good like animal speak, pull my, like, what does this mean? Like, right. Yes. And I had the window cracked like maybe just an inch and a half to let fresh air in. I was burning incense and a bird flew in my office. A little tiny, and was flying all around. And so of course I looked the sign up. Well, then after that, all birds were like, I got dive bombed by a swan. I had like a huge like eagle hawk or something flew by the window, like within inches of the window. And I was like, I mean, it was just bird sign after bird sign after bird sign after bird sign for like a few weeks.
And like a variety of birds.
One caveat was like, just don't let them be dead. I don't want them to hit the window. I promise I'll look them up. Like, I swear I'll look it up. So I was getting bird signs and they all matched with what I had been thinking about, what I was trying to piece out, what I was trying to work through. Like all this very specific types had a message. It was really interesting.
This is so cool. I mean, Amanda and I talk about this all the time. I think that there's a way to live your life where you're embracing so much whimsy when everything, to some degree, everything becomes a sign, right? Like for me, it's the same thing. If something dramatic happens with an animal, I'm immediately going to my book and I'm looking up what's the sign from that animal. Even just like watching a hawk in my backyard, like swoop down and grab something. I'm like, oh, that feels like a sign. Like that was so intense, like whatever I'm witnessing in my world that feels slightly out of place. Feels like it could be a message, and maybe it's confirmation bias. I don't know. Some people out there might argue, but it does seem to align. And when you look into what that specific animal represents, it's often like, oh yeah, that is what I'm going through, or that is a message I needed to receive. I love talking to people like you who are also that way, because I just think it's such a delicious way to live your life.
There's just so much more magic in it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's just so much more magic. And I do think there's so many different ways to get to where we're going. Why not have a little whimsy, a little magic, a little something more? I mean, spirit is like beyond, source is beyond what we could even begin to grasp. Yeah. Why would spirit and source and our guides not be able to communicate with these amazing animal beings out there who also have their own wisdom and medicine and all of that?
Personally, I'm a crow girl. There's crows all over my neighborhood.
I love crows.
I walk, and I had this one day that they walked with me on every block. Like there was like 20 of them. I don't know who I called. I was like, it's getting a little outrageous, because it's like they would be with me and then fly to the next block with me. And I'm like, okay, this is fun. I feel like a queen right now. I really do. I feel like I have an entourage.
Queen of the crows.
Yeah, and it was amazing. Crows. And I say hi to all my animals, and I feel like a Disney princess in the morning, because I'm like, hi butterfly, hi squirrels. And but no one's talked to me. Like you guys.
Well, but the crows are so perfect for you, Amanda, too, because, you know, it's this part that can really be with the void and with that like Piscean, moody energy, which is beautiful.
Yeah,
I love it.
I like being me. I will have, I do have a different, I do. I'm happy to be me.
I love
it. Took a while to get there, but I'm here.
Jessica, how did you first meet your guides and your spirit team? And did you call them in? This is kind of a big question, but like, what are they to you? You know what I mean? Like, how do you define what they are and who they are?
Like the ultimate backup team, like a support network, right? So I realized once I started intentionally, when I started opening up my mediumship, you know, skills and really worked on that, my guides were like front and center. But I realized that they had always been front and center. Like, because I'm very clairaudient, it sounds so bad, the voices, the tones, the voices and things like that I'd heard sporadically over my lifetime from when I was very young, they matched when I intentionally sat down to connect, they matched who that was. And I was like, oh my gosh, I remember this voice, or I remember that voice, you know? So I think they're like I treat them like a great support backup team. They're here. They're not going to tell me what to do, but they're going to help me maybe see things in a different way, or they're going to listen, or they're going to bring me signs to help me. Sometimes we're just looking in the wrong direction. We just need someone to like take our head and like turn it the other way and be like, no, it's over here. Oh, well, thank you. You know,
do you find that they are a mixed group of voices you recognize and unknown voices, or is it all voices you kind of, you know who it is?
For me, when I'm like with my own team, they were all very familiar. Like, you know, I have the belief that, you know, our guides come in with us at birth, like that there's this inner band, this inner table that comes in with us at birth. And then as we need different guides, as we make choices and move through the world, kind of like our outer band of guides, they step up for the moment, right? Like those seasonal friends that come in for a season and step away. Like they step in, they support, and they step back. And so, but we have this core that comes with us. I always joke, like they're the ones that conned me into becoming human again. Like,
you're like, I don't know if I'm going back there, you guys.
And they're like, no, it's a good idea. It's a good idea.
Like the reason, the season, the lifetime groups.
Yeah. And so we have this core, and they're just ours. They're just for us. And so when I'm doing spirit guide readings or mediumship or whatever, I'm not using my team to connect. My team comes in for me on the right, and other people's come in on the upper left. So when I'm doing a session, if I need to connect with the guides, you'll see me look up to the left, like I'm listening, because that's where that information comes from, because their team knows them better. My team knows me, their team knows them. And so I reach out to their team.
That is so cool. I love that you can sort of differentiate that. I notice for me, when my guides come through, the way I sort of help myself differentiate from my own thoughts is like, it seems like it comes from like the back of my head. And my thoughts are like in the front. It's a strange.
It's interesting, isn't
feeling. Yes. And because you have this like mediumship gift, when you are entering spaces, I mean, even this call, do you feel like you can feel other people's, maybe not guides, but
if I open up to that, like if I turn that volume button up, it would be more of us than just us, right? But it's very intentional, because I can't go around picking up everything. So I often make the intention of like, okay, turn it down unless I'm in the space that I'm like, yeah, this is what we're doing. And that's also why I don't bump into some of those non-helpful energies, because I'm only really turning that volume up when I'm in a set space. I'm created a space to welcome something very specific into it.
And how did you learn to do that? Was this through the psychic group that you found, that they sort of taught some tools on how to filter?
I found that my guides actually did most of the work on how to filter. Like there was a lot. We have so many birds outside the window right now. I just need to tell you that. They're just everywhere. I'm like, oh, hello.
What a beautiful omen for this episode.
Right. I love it. I find that my guides watch me through a lot of that. We worked on a lot of different exercises. And then, of course, you know, I read the books that were out there too, like played with things, adapted them, adjusted them to fit what I needed. But it's a lot of experimentation. Like what I do may not work for everyone. And so when I'm teaching it, I'm like, let's start here, but then how can we adjust it to meet us, meet you where you're at with how you work and how you receive.
Oh, and where did you end up landing, by the way, in your story where you were smelling salts or not?
Situate, Massachusetts.
Oh.
It's just south of Boston, right on the ocean.
That's where you are now?
That's where I am now. And so if I crack my windows every day, I smell the salt air.
Oh,
that was
my
a
gosh.
good sign to request.
Yeah, it was really, I was like, not sure how it was going to work, but I was like, I'm game. Let's try it.
That's phenomenal. I have my little side story is that years ago I read, I think Gabby Bernstein's book about, like pick a sign and then you'll start to see it when you're on the right track. And at the time I was like, I'm going to pick a skunk because it showed up in like my cards that I drew ages ago as one of my animals. And I really liked what it represented. And I also was like, I'm never going to see this. Skunks are like not things that people want to like put up on their walls, And so I'm like, this is great. I'm really going to know. And it is amazing how much skunk stuff I see. It's bananas. Yeah, thank you. And
Good
now
choice.
here's a really cool way of like changing your brain. Now when I smell a skunk smell, I get like excited. I'm like, oh, I love
it. That's awesome.
There's something in psychology about that.
Exactly. It's all about framing. I have to say, Jessica, I think that you have been the perfect first guest for us. So thank you.
Yes,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for indulging us with your knowledge. I would love to leave our listeners with maybe one tip that you would have for them for, if there are some who are like, oh, I just want to like exercise these skills a little bit more, whether that's with tarot, whether that's just with accessing their own guides. If there's a tip that you feel called to share, what would that be?
It's the lamest tip ever. It's practice. Practice before you need it. A lot of times we reach for the cards or our guides or whatever when we're in the thick of it. And that's actually a really impossible time to get a clear, even people who are trained, it's hard to get a clear connection. So you want to learn how you work before you need it. So that when you are in that space, you're not trying to do two things at once. Get the supportive guidance that you need and figure out how you work. So I always tell people practice, like get really familiar with how you work, how your guides speak to you, how you want to work with your cards. And then it will come like second nature when you need it.
Love that.
And create your value list, I guess.
And your values,
Yeah.
y'all. And use them.
Yes. And then where can folks find you?
I have a website, jessicapaschke.com. And if they want to sign up for my newsletter, it's jessicapaschke.com/newsletter, where we do I drop a lot of fun things in there. We talk about tarot, we talk about uncertain times, we talk about spirituality and practices. You never know, like sometimes I drop in meditations and PDFs. It's always kind of a fun space. And then you can find me on Instagram at Intuitive by the Sea or Facebook at Jessica Paschke.
Perfect. Wow. This has been a dream.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we really enjoyed chatting with you. And thank you for being an early adopter and coming on board so quickly. And,
Yeah.
From the moment I read the description, I'm like, oh, wait, no, I'm reaching out to that one.
Yes.
Thank you. All
right, y'all. Have a great day.
Bye, Jessica.
Bye.
Take care. I want to share some quick extras that Jessica sent us after our interview. The first is that we've started asking all of our guests to recommend a book that really moved them on their path. There's a page on our website that features all those book recs with links to purchase if you want. But of course, we also suggest supporting your local library and checking them out for free. As Jessica was our first guest, we hadn't gotten in the habit of asking, but when we reached out over email, she gushed over Rachel Pollack's 78 Degrees of Wisdom, the revised edition. She said she had to buy it twice because the binding cracked and pages fell out after years of use, which is about as good of a testimonial as you can get as a book. Jessica also offers a free beginner's tarot course, which we've listed in the show notes. Definitely check it out. It's perfect if you're feeling tarot curious. There's no fee. Learn the ropes, exercise that intuition. You can go to jessicapaschke.com/offering/tarot-simplified. Thank you so much again for being one of our earliest adopters. We couldn't be more appreciative. I know I mentioned it mid-show, but we would adore it if you could help us get the word out. Pump us up in the algorithm, like, subscribe, review, all those good things. Much love. See you next time. You are supported, dear listener. It may not always feel that way, but there will be signs.